Good morning, Noblesville. Mayor Chris Jenson here. It's great to be with you on a Mental Health Monday. I am joined once again by my good friend, a great citizen, someone who has just given so much of her time to this community, Kristen Boice. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor Jenson. I'm happy to be here today.
Glad to have you. As you all well know, Kristen is the owner of Pathways to Healing Counseling here in Noblesville, has given her time to help us work through the last several months and into the foreseeable future, focus on our mental health during this time. It's great to be back with everybody. After we took last week off, we're here on this Monday morning. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Kristen, we have a lot to talk about today. There's a lot of anxiety, tension, questions, you name it, around all sorts of things coming up here later in the month of July. So we're going to cover them this morning. A few ground rules. If you're with us this morning, if you're viewing, make sure to say hello. Take a minute if you'd like and let us know that you're watching. Or if you have any questions, any thoughts, any comments, this is a safe space. We want you to feel free to ask those. If we don't get to them on the show, we'll get back with you later, with answers to those. So we want this to be an open forum for folks to share their feelings, ask their questions. I know Kristen, we posted out that we're going to talk a lot about back to school and the emotions that are coming around back to school. So I imagine there might be a lot of first-time people watching here today, which I welcome that. Just know that we're going to talk about kind of how to deal with the emotions around back to school. We're not going to necessarily touch on plans or comment on that, but we're going to talk about kind of the anxieties surrounding that and how to work through that this morning. So thank you so much for joining us. As we get started, Kristen, I know what you're going to do, so walk us through some breathing techniques to get us centered.
First thing I teach everybody is we're going to learn to breathe to calm our nervous system. So the first thing I'm going to invite you to do is feel your feet on the floor, pressing into your feet. This is called square breathing, and you can do this anytime, any place. And I invite you to do it every hour until we retrain your brain to just automatically focus on the breath. So we're going to feel our feet on the floor. We're going to inhale through our nose for 4. We're going to hold for 4, and then we're going to slowly exhale out our mouth like we're cooling soup or cooling a cookie. You can also let out a sigh on that out breath and just kind of play around with what works best for you. I'll walk you through it together, and then you go at your own pace. So feel your feet on the floor, pressing into your feet, really feeling the earth beneath you. Taking a deep breath, inhale through your nose. We're going to hold. Exhale slowly out your mouth. I want you to notice your shoulders dropping. If you need to sit up taller, feel free to do that. If you need to lean back a little, just play around what feels good in your nervous system, because everybody's different. So this is an invitation for you to connect to your own body, your own nervous system, and discover what feels best for you. So let's do another breath together. Inhale through your nose. Exhale out your mouth. So as you're really revisiting kind of opening of school, you have some fear, some anxieties, you feel uncertain. The first step I'm inviting you to do is breathe. If you feel dysregulated, if you feel activated in your body, if you feel intense, if you feel like you're about ready to lose it, which a lot of people have felt, or you feel shut down and you kind of feel like you're going to withdraw and kind of hide, the first thing I want you to do is breathe regularly. And I invite you to do 5 or 6 breaths at a time to really connect to that nerve, to really calm your nervous system down and connect. Okay, Mayor Jenson, I'm ready.
Let's hop right into it. After that breathing, I feel centered. I feel good. I was rolling my shoulders back. So I'm ready to go. I don't know about you, Kristen, but everywhere I turn this weekend, and really for the past week, the topic has been back to school. You have school-age kids. I have school-age kids. I'm married to a teacher. There's a lot of opinions out there. Noblesville Schools issued on Saturday their back-to-school plan. First, I want to start by saying I just kudos and a round of applause to our school leadership and also our teachers, educators, our parents. You're all doing a heck of a job, and you're doing it your way. And so I just want to just say thank you to everyone who's putting their thoughts in place. I don't doubt everyone's thinking about our kids and our teachers and trying to work through that. But there's a lot of questions out there. Noblesville laid out their plan. It differs a little bit from Southeastern's plan, which it differs from Carmel's plan, which differs from Westfield's plan. So everyone's kind of working off a different mindset here. There's different opinions about this. But Kristen, if I'm a parent, let's start with the parent perspective. If I'm a parent right now trying to make some of these big decisions, can you give us some ideas on how to coach us through dealing with the swirling emotions we have about this topic?
First thing we're going to do is take our breaths, because there's no right or wrong answer here. I mean, you have to do it that is in the best interest of you and your family. So the first thing is noticing your own reaction to what's being presented. So if you have an intense reaction, my invitation is for you to write out what you're feeling, write out what you're afraid of, write out your concerns, write out your emotions. You might be sad, you might be scared, you might be angry, you might be disgusted. Those are some of the core emotions we've been working on. So you can go back to previous episodes and really kind of take in those core emotions. We have to identify, what are you feeling? First and foremost, because if we don't nurture our own feelings, we're going to be very reactionary versus responding. Responding is coming from a regulated, centered place. It doesn't mean I don't have feelings. It doesn't mean I don't have concerns. It means I'm taking responsibility for my own emotions, my own reactivity, my own defense mechanisms, which we all have. And it's important that we're taking responsibility so we show our children what it looks like to take ownership and self-regulate. So the first thing I say is take a breath. Second thing I invite people to do is write out what you're feeling. I know a lot of people have fears, a lot of people have concerns, and that's okay. It's, what are you doing with those fears and concerns? Are you getting angry? Are you getting, and anger is not a bad emotion. So I want to make sure I'm very clear on that. Anger is an appropriate emotion sometimes. It's, what am I doing? Am I taking it out on other people? Am I able to see kind of two sides to every situation, or am I only seeing it through one? I call it the horse with blinders. And it's like I can't see anyone else's perspective because I'm so mired in my own fears, my own reactivity. And it doesn't mean I have to agree with it. It just means I am going to come from a place of, I'm going to do what's in the best interest for me and my family. I'm gonna exercise. You have choices, which is a beautiful thing. And everybody has their own feelings about it. The teachers, administrators, parents, kids, everybody has their own thoughts, feelings, and opinions, and it's okay. It's, what are we doing with that? What are we doing with our own emotions? Are we getting angry at other people, putting other people down? Are we wanting to change other people's minds? Because guess what? You're not going to. This is the thing I want to tell people. You're not going to change other people's minds. You might, if they're open to that exploration, but a lot of people are coming because they're scared. They're feeling afraid, or they're feeling like they want things to go back to normal. Whatever you're feeling, it's okay. It's, what are you doing with that? Are we taking it out on other people? Are we putting other people down? That's where the line gets tripped, and we kind of we're crossing over a line. And so writing it out, have my handy dandy journal. I write out a lot of what I'm feeling, because what happens then I can have a very centered conversation with my kids. So I'm not projecting my fears and anxiety onto my kids. I can teach and equip, saying, this is how we're going to handle it with the masks. We might do a trial run of how that might look, washing hands, hand sanitizer, those kinds of things. And if you don't feel comfortable sending your child, that is okay. That is totally okay. You get to choose. You get to kind of decide what is the best decision for you. And that's the beauty of all of this. You can make the decision that's the best for you. And we know we want to take teachers into consideration. We want to take administrators, bus drivers, cafeteria workers. It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody has a choice. And at least that's my understanding. And I want to make sure that we're honoring and we're acknowledging each other. I see we have a question here. Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, it looks like Brad asked a question about allocating some money for the police department to get social workers on staff. I'm assuming, Brad, you probably may be referring to social workers, maybe, I don't know if in school, because I know the schools have their, they work, I believe, through community on some mental health support. Internally, we're always looking at ways, our own Noblesville Police Department, to support them emotionally, our officers, but I think you're talking about, deploying them into the future. We're trying to equip, actually, I would encourage you to take a look at a new program called Noble Act, which is a program we launched through our police and fire department, specifically focused on proactive paramedicine in Noblesville, taking a look at how we are getting resources to individuals in our community, especially resources around mental health. So that's a big push, Brad. A great question. We're continuing to invest in that emotional and mental health side of our officers, so they're better equipped as they go out into the community. So great opportunity and great question there, Brad, as it relates to that. So Kristen, I want to talk a little bit about, you mentioned something in your last comment about defense mechanisms. And I know you and I have chatted briefly a little bit about that, but can we talk about what defense mechanisms look like in people? When are they most triggered? How do we manage through them and with them?
Absolutely. I just did a whole podcast on this week's Close the Chapter podcast on defense mechanisms, because it's the number one thing I'm seeing right now as it relates to when we have an emotion. We have learned as children ways to manage the emotion. We've learned ways to survive. We've learned ways to kind of get through it. There's conditioning, there's programming, there's messages we get, and they're adaptive a lot of times in childhood. They get us through, they help us survive. And then in adulthood and relationships, they can become maladaptive. So let's talk about what is a defense mechanism? A defense mechanism is a way to move away from discomfort, what's going on underneath emotionally, because a lot of times we weren't allowed to express what we were feeling inside. It was to be kept quiet. We were hide it, or it wasn't safe. And so now what happens is, if we feel anxiety, we feel shame, we feel guilt, we feel scared, a lot of times we'll move to our defense mechanism, which might be, there's a whole slew of them. We'll get into some of the ones I'm seeing right now: blame, shame, judgment, kind of control, rage. Anger is a core emotion, but rage really is something that it could be a defense mechanism that we've learned. Numbing, I'm seeing like overeating, right? We could be shopping. We could be all over the internet. We could be using social media to kind of move away from our emotions, like what might be underneath, which might be fear, sadness, grief. Oftentimes what I see is it closes us off to empathy. It closes us off from connection. It closes us off from being able to attune, because we're mired in staying in that defense. So shut down, perfectionism, people pleasing, having to be right, because that makes me feel, not me, but makes people feel like they have worth, value, significance, importance, that they're smart enough. And having to be right kills relationships. Wanting people to hear us and see us and understand us and love us and acknowledge us does not come through defense mechanisms. It comes from attunement. It comes from listening. It comes from trying to understand. So I wrote out, like, how do we first identify our defense mechanisms? One is, you got to understand your intense reaction. So if you're having an activation, I call it being activated. If we have an intensity in our nervous system, if I can feel myself wanting to get my thing out, wanting to be heard, chances are I'm really in a defense response, because I want to be understood. I want to be heard. And maybe there's this piece of you that really feels like you don't have any worth. You don't have any value. You don't matter. You're probably going to move to, and you have a lot of shame, which is, I don't feel good enough. You're probably going to move into a defense mechanism you learned a long time ago. And it might be anger. It might be, like I said, rage. It might be people pleasing, perfecting, placating, pretending, numbing. Again, we could go on and on about all the options here. And what I want to teach people is, one, take responsibility for your defense mechanism. We all have them. We all have them. Let's not shame ourselves. Let's go, oh, there it is. There's me wanting to be right. Oh, there I am. There I am. I'm just kind of shut down, stonewalling. Oh, there I do criticism. Oh, there's my contempt. Oh, there I'm doing my, there I am trying to protect myself. I'm trying to protect myself and I'm putting walls up. I'm guarding. Well, it's not really protecting you. Boundaries are advocating for yourself. That is healthy. That's saying what's okay and what's not okay. That is healthy. Those are adaptive. Doing, yelling and screaming at somebody so you feel heard isn't adaptive. And plus, they're not going to hear you. When we shame others, when we judge others, we're not inspiring anybody to change. We will not inspire anybody to change. They will shut down. They will then put their guard up. And now two people are defended. Nobody's hearing anybody. Nobody. Mm-hmm. The way to get through this is empathy. And I know that sounds so counterintuitive. So I wrote out some steps. Let's talk about it because I want to teach people how to do this. Okay. This is what we're talking about. We have to own our defense mechanisms, and then we have to say how we feel with a healthy way. I'm teaching people how to communicate in a healthy way. So I feel, you'll put a core emotion in there. Sad, scared, angry might be an emotion you have. Excited and angry, excited and sad, excited and scared because I'm afraid that my kid won't get, their mental health will suffer. I'm afraid. See, because I'm afraid, this is going to be a lot of it. Okay. Be specific. I need you to hear what I'm saying. Can you just repeat back to me what you heard me say? Okay. So mirroring back what you hear someone say is critical. And guess what? We're not doing that well on social media. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's not happening. Okay. Let's just be real. We can't, this is not a forum to start a war. It's okay for you to have your feelings. What happens is we get so protective of ourselves that we're like this. We're in fight, flight, or freeze. And what I'm seeing on social media is a lot of fear. A lot of, do you hear me? Do you understand me? Well, no, people don't know how to do it. People aren't equipped for these conversations. So we're functioning from a very reactive place. And if you're in person with somebody, I do this all the time. So if you're in therapy with me, it's exhausting and it's empowering. I teach people how to mirror each other back. So especially with parents and child, couples, I've done family systems where you just reflect back what you hear instead of saying your next thing, because that's a defensive response. If I want to just say my next thing, I'm already in a defense. I'm not hearing you because I want to tell you my thing. I want to tell you my opinion. I want to tell you what I want to be heard. That's a very primitive place. We all want to be heard. I can't be heard if I'm not hearing other people. That means I'm defended. That means I'm protecting myself. So now if someone's screaming at you, cussing at you, then you set a boundary. That's not okay to talk to me. And then you get off, you move away, you leave the scene, whatever that looks like for you. So you mirror back what you hear the person say. So what I heard you say is you're scared because you're afraid your child's not going to get the education they need. Okay, so now I'm hearing you, I'm reflecting. Then I'm going to say, did I get that? And if they go, no, that's not what I meant. Even if it's the exact same thing that they said, they're taking it in deeper. Mm-hmm. They're maybe processing it and hearing it in a different way. Then we're going to offer empathy, even if I don't agree with them. I'm going to say, that makes sense. That makes sense that you're afraid. And I'm not going to bring myself into it and go, yeah, I'm afraid too. I just switched the conversation and made it about me. Even though I might feel the same way, I can say that at some point, but right now I'm just going to hold the space. That makes sense that you're afraid. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Right now there's so much uncertainty. It makes sense you feel afraid. Guess what happens? The defense mechanisms, this is fight, flight, or freeze in the brain. Now the person starts to calm. I'm not responsible for calming the other person. I'm in a non-reactive place. I'm centered because I'm breathing and I'm regulated. I would love to teach people how to have healthy conversations when we don't agree. Wouldn't this be great if we could all practice this? If we don't agree, and how to do that? Because we're all scared at the end of the day. We're all scared. We don't want to get sick. We don't want to die. We don't want our kids to die. We're afraid, and we're functioning from that place. So that's a couple of tips to work through the defense mechanisms. I know this is deep, and I'm here to help people work through challenges, differences. We can do this.
Absolutely. You said one of the biggest steps is kind of to own your defense mechanism. So, in the interest of owning my defense mechanism, because I've said all along that I will be as vulnerable as I can be for in this community. So, I am an emotional eater. So, I love me some sweets and love me a lot of sweets. Emily Gaylor's shaking her head yes in my office here. So, I'm actually meeting with a nutritionist at 11:45 today. I have friends at Riverview to sit down to map out a plan. So, there you go, Noblesville. I'll lay it out for you. I'm going to try to focus more on healthy eating habits and not eat my feelings. So just thought I'd share that with the group for anybody watching. So
you're not alone.
No, I can't imagine.
You are not alone. Eating our feelings starts very young. We learn to kind of, oh, you want some ice cream? You feel bad? Here, let's have some ice cream. Let's have some cookies. It's not that was your experience.
But I work out a ton too, but I've also realized that you can work out all you want, but if you just, eat 7 donuts on a Saturday morning, it doesn't really matter. So we're going to try to balance that out a little bit, Kristen. There you go.
Good for you.
There's my vulnerability for you today. So
thank you for sharing that, because you're going to help other people.
My pleasure. I also want to shift and talk a little bit about, and in this conversation today, a little bit talking about kids and how we communicate with our kids about, we started talking about how do we process our fear about going back to school. Lindsay Bennett, is a good friend of mine, commented about her son being a kindergartner and how he's anxious about going to school for the first time. I can't imagine being a kindergartner. So let's maybe give some tips to parents who are wrestling with that right now. Have some kids who are real uncertain. Maybe they're working on themselves to make sure they're projecting appropriately, but then there's still going to be some uncertainty amongst those kids. How do we talk to our kids to help them process this going back to school?
Absolutely. And I'm passionate about this. Here's the first thing is get a book on emotions. Okay. Or Feeling Faces chart. Conscious Discipline has a lot. Let them talk about their feelings. So if he says, I'm scared to go back to school, you say, so you feel scared to go back to school? Yeah, I'm afraid. Tell me more. What are you afraid of? I'm afraid I'm going to get sick. And you're afraid you're going to get sick. Yeah. And yeah, that makes sense that you feel that way. What are some of the things that we could do to help you feel better? I don't know. So you're not sure. No. How about let's do a trial run. Let's go by this. Now you can't go in this school, but let's go by this school and let's talk about things you can do to help you feel better. And we can talk about a transitional object. So like, for example, I'm making this up. Okay. I don't know why I have this random monkey, but I do because I have 2 kids. Well, they're older now, but who knows where we got this. Let's say they're feeling scared. I might say, well, why don't you take, monkey mama with you in your backpack? And if you get sad or you get scared, The Helping Hand's a great book, by the way. If you don't have it, get it. And you can trace your hand on the helping hand, and that could be a transitional object for your child to have in their backpack, put in their pocket. You can kiss it. You can put essential oil on there. You could have an animal that they can have. Now that might be a little more sanitary, as that, cutting out your hand and having them take that to school. And you can read the book, The Helping Hand. It's an awesome book for elementary students. Highly recommend it. A transitional object can be very helpful. A picture of the family, putting that in the backpack. When you get sad, it's okay. Pull out the picture of, your family in the backpack. Talk to your teacher, equip them to say how they feel to the teacher. So important. I was talking to one of the Noblesville teachers, who's a neighbor, Susan, and we were talking about face masks. And I think this is an important conversation. And I don't know who out there might be able to do this, but the teachers are concerned that they can't see the child's face. Mm-hmm. And I know they have the clear ones now. You can see a smile. Not everybody's going to have those. Most people won't. Like if we had bracelets that had all the core emotions on there, sad, excited, we could have angry, scared, whatever. And each student had a bracelet with the emotion on there, and they could put it on. So if they have 2 emotions they're feeling, they have those. And the teachers can talk about emotions. They can go, oh, me too. You feel sad. I do too. Oh, you feel mad. I do too. And then they can still have this connection, even though they can't see their faces, with the bracelets. And if everybody had them, we could change conversation around emotions. The number one thing I want to teach you about is emotions. Because if you, as a parent, as a teacher, as a human being on this planet, can connect to your own emotions, that's where the birthplace of empathy. That's the birthplace of empathy. So then we can empathize even if we don't agree, and we can have deeper, more connected, vulnerable conversations where we feel seen, heard, acknowledged, important, and cared for. So that's something to think about. Even if we all adults had these feeling bracelets on, and we're like, we taking a walk and we see someone, they're like, I feel sad, and go, oh, I see you. You matter. You're important.
Unite. Yeah.
We're together in this. I mean, wouldn't that be, now we're shared humanity. And for our kids, it's super important they feel seen, heard, understood, and cared for. We do that by mirroring back what you hear them say. We do that by acknowledging their feelings and letting them have them. Don't rescue them from them. That's doing them a disservice. Don't go, you're fine, it's going to be great. No, that we don't do that first. We first let them process. And then we can talk through how that could look for them and possibilities. They need to be seen and understood. Otherwise, they're going to shove those feelings back down and go, well, that wasn't okay. I shouldn't have said that. Or I'm a bad kid. Or there's something wrong with me. We want to go, well, it's going to be awesome. No, don't do that at the beginning. That's shoving those feelings back down. The more they tell you, the better. The more they get it out, the better. The more they process, the better. So let them do that. And if you want to get a feelings chart, put it up. Conscious Discipline, like I said, has one. Get books on feelings, and you do your own work. Get comfortable with your own feelings. I do this every day. I know it's exhausting. The mirroring every day, exhausting, and the most transformative thing you can do in your family and for another human being is to hear them. Let's work on our reactivity. Let's work on our reactions. Let's stop putting everybody in this bad or good category. Polarizing people doesn't create connection. And what do we need more to repair what's happening is connection. And this is how we do it, through emotions. So there you go.
That's awesome. So what I hear you saying, Kristen, is that our kids need to be seen and heard.
And we do that by mirroring and acknowledging the feelings.
There we go. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think that feeling chart, whether it be a feeling chart or bracelet, parents, if you're looking for something to help your kids communicate, that doesn't have to fall on the teachers. I think parents can really take it upon themselves to help work with their kid. A great project here the next couple of weeks. If you're looking for some stuff to fill some downtime during the summer months, that might be a great project for you to work on. So this was an incredibly uplifting conversation, Kristen. I just want to thank everyone for joining in and tuning in. Thank you again for giving time. Before we leave, I want to end on the same way that we end most every week, and that is if you, first of all, please know that you matter. Everyone in the city, state, country, whoever's tuning in matter. And we appreciate you doing that. But if you're in a bad spot right now, Kristen, where can they turn for some resources?
Let me give you a list of them, because there's several that I highly recommend. Here locally in Noblesville, Indiana, is Prevail. And they are, if you're in a domestic violence situation, emotional abuse, any kind of an abuse situation, and their number is 317-776 3472. You can call them 24/7. There's the suicide prevention hotline or lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. We also have the disaster distress helpline, and that's 1-800-985-5990. If you don't want to make a phone call and you just want to text, that's okay too. You're going to text 741-741-24/7, and you can write connect on there and someone will talk to you. We also have Community North here locally for any grief, children that are going through grief. We have Brooks Place, highly recommend them. There's tons of resources online. That's just a tip in the bucket. And then a therapist, any therapist locally, a lot of them are doing telehealth too. So please know, I know it's scary to make that first phone call, and you won't regret it, because you're worth it. You can change your life. It's never too late. No matter how old you are, make the call.
Yep, you are worth it. You're exactly right. Kristen Boice with Pathways to Healing. Thank you once again for joining us. Thanks to all of you for joining us for Mental Health Monday. We'll be back here, same time, same place, in exactly 2 weeks from today. In the meantime, stay safe, Noblesville. You matter, and we're all in this together. Thanks again, Kristen.
Thank you, Mayor Jenson.